morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ruddy and I'm a filmmaker, and today I want to talk to you about visual effects, especially the visual effects for this shot right here. And this is how I did it. Now, the very first thing I did is I shot a clean plate of the footage that I put on the end of the take. So what I just did is I cut that clean plate and I froze it in time, basically. Now, when you're rotoscoping, there is a tool called RotoBrush, which is very, very useful in After Effects. Basically, it's what I'm using right now. But it does require a little bit of policing while you're using it. As you can see here and there, it misses things, but it is much, much better than using the good old Roto tool. Now we need to do this because we're going to be putting effects all around Cassia and her character, and that's why we need her popping out of the background so we can stick things behind her. After we have Cassia completely cut out from the background, we need to play around with the RotoBrush tool just to make sure that the edges are not too sharp and that everything is actually masked correctly and we're not missing anything. I want to talk to you about the asset that I was using to create the main effect, which was Fire number 8 from Fire Assets from Film Riot. And I'd like to talk about these assets because I bought them years ago and they are genius. If you're looking for basic fire effects, they have everything you need. Now, after I've done a plug to something fucking amazing, I'm gonna continue explaining exactly what I did. Before we continue doing all this, I had to make sure that I pre-comp this asset so it becomes its own composition, so that I can drag it on top of the main composition that we just rotoscoped. So as you can see, I've opened this asset and I have applied a mirror tool. Then I applied change color effect and I started matching this effect to whatever Maya's magic spells look like and the color. After that, I added a little bit of glow, and here, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a person that has science to any of this. I'm not a visual effects artist. I do whatever bloody works. So basically, add a little bit of glow and play a little bit with the settings and see what exactly works for you. After I've done all this, ladies and gentlemen, I duplicated this effect 4 times, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset all these fire elements ever so slightly to one side. And as you can see, they all have this black background, right? So I'm going to make sure that the blending mode on each one of them is set to screen, which basically gets rid of the black. And as you can see right now, I'm using the puppet tool, which is another phenomenal tool from After Effects, ladies and gentlemen. And with that tool, I'm puppeteering basically what these fire assets are going to be looking like on camera. The next thing I did is I made all these layers in 3D so I can move them back and forth from each other. Think in 3-dimensional space. As you can see, the bottom, the very, very bottom of this composition, all of the flames are emitting from the same point. Now, back into the main composition, when we have Cassia, as you can see, we had to set the composition of the front flame to screen so we can get rid of the black background from the pre-comp. And then going back and forth from the pre-comp and into the main composition, we adjust the position and the scale and the rotation of all these fire assets to whatever looks best for us and what we're trying to achieve. As you can see, I am moving them around, adding a little bit of rotation and a little bit of scale just to add that sense of three-dimensionality. This is a funny thing to say. And adding a little bit of the puppet tool right here as well. I'm basically creating something like an arcane cage around Cassia here. So at the moment what I'm doing is I'm doing the magic that's coming out from Maya's wand. I'm using a plugin from Video Copilot called Saber. It is a genius plugin, and Video Copilot and Andrew Kramer are gods. They just basically are. So basically by adding a new solid layer, I'm applying the Saber plugin on top, and by using the puppet tool, as you can see, I am animating this effect frame by frame going forward as if it is coming from another witch's wand off frame. I took the last 10 frames or so of the Saber effect and I just faded them down. Now, something that is incredibly useful is a lens flare, ladies and gentlemen. It is important and it's great because every time when you have a visual effect, usually that is adding some sort of a light. And light, ladies and gentlemen, it has a lot of different qualities in real world, and one of them is it reflects and reflects from the internal elements of the lenses and basically creates all these strange flares and all sorts of different things into the camera. And by adding these artificial effects later on into the computers, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that we have all these little quirks of physics, which are reflections and all sorts of different things. Now, what I just did is I just tracked this flare with the front of the Magic. And as the Magic hits the ground, ladies and gentlemen, it creates almost something like an explosion. And if an explosion happens on camera and the camera is this close to the explosion, it is most likely going to go to complete white because it's too bright. So the way I just did this, ladies and gentlemen, is by using the flare intensity, and I increase the brightness of the flare to some extraordinary amount. So what I just did is I duplicated the flare layer once again, and I added a wiggle effect, which basically gives me a little bit of pulsation into the effect. Well, thank you so much for watching this slightly longer than usual video, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that it was at least entertaining, if not useful to you. Make sure you follow me on my social media links that are linked in the description below, especially on my Instagram channel, because we made a short film and there you're gonna have an exclusive chance of watching it before anybody else. But now, without further ado and extending the length of this video, thank you for watching and goodbye. See you next time.